Hello, Catherine.
Hi there.
I'm here today with Katherine Cornelison, and we're going to talk about the great 2000 horror movie Shadow of the Vampire today. So, you ready to get going on
Yes,
Shadow of the Vampire?
I am indeed. Am I
All
your
right.
resident vampire expert?
You are the resident vampire expert. You're the only person I know that has a set of fangs.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Blah,
So,
blah. Okay.
I really like this movie. I watched it a long time ago, and we just watched it recently, and it holds
hmm
up pretty well to me. Seems.
Yeah, this
What
was
do
the
you think?
first time I've seen it, and I mean, I have to say, I thought it was really quite good.
Okay, so the movie begins. It's the Bram Stoker estate refuses to sell the rights to make the movie, so the director decides to just steal the story and use a little different setup. Has him going to Germany instead of England, and it's Count Orlok, and he's not sophisticated like Dracula. He's more like the
An
European
old
vampire.
vampire.
Yes, a very old
Mhm.
vampire. I was going to say the ones that you see in when they go to Europe and interview with the vampire.
They're mindless.
Yes. So, what did
Yes.
you think of that? What did you think of the setup, Catherine?
Okay, so I read Dracula a while back. I mean, I guess the reason I'm the resident vampire expert is because I definitely had a phase, and I think this wasn't so uncommon for girls my age at this particular early 2000s time period. But I definitely had a phase where I was reading a lot of vampire fiction, including Dracula, An Interview with a Vampire, and that whole uh, Vampire Chronicles series. I think I read books of that one. And then just some random one offs. And then, of course, Twilight came out and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I remember watching Nosferatu totally unaware of this history with the estate not selling the rights to this film crew. And so as I'm watching it, I'm like, wait a minute, this happened in Dracula. Wait a minute, this happened in Dracula. Wait a minute. So I think that I really like this genre of like, I don't know what you would call it exactly, but like revisionist history, I guess, or like what mockumentary. I don't know what you would call it, but it's taking this true thing and adding this fantastical element to it, and making it a very interesting historical fiction. I don't know what
Well,
you would call it.
what would be the true thing in this case that you're talking about?
Oh, the story of the production not
Oh,
getting the
okay.
rights to the Dracula story, and so just kind of making this knockoff movie version of it that's almost beat for beat the same.
Right. So I think it's just it's not really revisionist history. I think it's just standard fiction with enough truth in it to make people get sucked into the story.
I
You know.
mean, sure, sure, because I don't know what that actual director was like, but certainly John Malkovich's acting and the writing with the character certainly made him seem like this tortured genius artist man who was very well renowned and everything. So,
Yeah, we could talk about that. Too. Back, John Malkovich does a great job in this movie because he's really good at acting crazy. But it, this could almost be a Jekyll and Hyde, where the man is this is all happening in his mind. I don't think
you
that's what
think
the
so?
movie intended. No, I don't think that's what the movie intended. But you could read
You're
it
saying
that
that is
way.
a
That it's
reading of the movie. Sure.
yes, his tortured vision of himself. Trying to deal with his inner demons. So
Sure.
yeah, you know. So the director John Malkovich, Murnau, how do you say that?
Murnau, I think, yeah.
Murnau. Murnau has gone to Czechoslovakia and scouted out locations where he's gonna shoot the live scenes of the film, and they start out when they're in the studio. You know, what do you think the reason was that everybody was a drug addict in this film?
Well, I mean, it could have something to do with the vampiric allegory of addiction, where the vampire is addicted to human blood and they can't help themselves and that sort of thing. But I think it also is maybe just a setting situation where that was a very popular thing in Europe in the Roaring 20s.
I guess so. I was wondering if it was put in there to make them unsympathetic characters too.
I could see that, especially the main actress. I don't know how right now, but she certainly
Katherine
was
McCormack.
not.
Katherine
Yes,
McCormack
her
playing Greta.
Greta. Yes, Greta was not a particularly sympathetic character. She was the very stereotypical prima donna type.
Right. And then the woman that played actually Greta in Nosferatu was not a big star, though. That's
Right.
one place they deviated a little bit.
Glaring difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Murnau brings the whole crew to somewhere in Czechoslovakia, back when Czechoslovakia existed.
It was one country, yes.
Right. And he says that he has Max Schreck, who is played by Willem Dafoe, and he's going to stay in character as the Nosferatu the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And the people, go along with that. The crew goes along with it at the beginning. The locals are not too happy for them taking down the crosses and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the Nosferatu living in an abbey. Would you like to opine on that a little bit? Because it offended me.
Oh, I mean, I guess there is the consideration that one type of I forget what what the actual name is of it. One type of protection against vampires is, Christian symbology.
Holy ground.
Symbology? Holy ground, right. And I mean, especially, I know that has, now that you're putting me on the spot. No. But now that you're putting me on the spot, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what, but there's something about that in the Dracula story, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't remember that if it is.
Oh, okay.
I read the book in like the 7th grade, so
Exactly. It's a while back now.
Yeah.
I really wish I don't think I still have the book that I want to reference, but it's a book called Vampire Death and Burial, and it's all about like kind of the origin of vampires and these different kind of rituals and things that people did to protect themselves against vampires. And it was always kind of just made up stuff where they were like, if you just like take this person that you think is a vampire and like take their bones and like grind them up and then like snort it, it'll cure you of your tuberculosis or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like that. But
yes, it's not gonna be good for your sinuses.
No, and in fact, you'll probably, and then you'll also have annoyances. But
so
yeah, so there's. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I say a consecrated abbey might be great for a Highlander that doesn't want to fight, but it wouldn't work for a vampire. He should be in an old castle ruin or something like that.
Right. I did find the setting a little strange too. Yes, it's this vampire character is definitely modest. He's not your glamorous, like, high life kind of vampire like Dracula was, you know, in his ornate castle with his 3 wives, you know.
Exactly. I think Anne Rice hit on that pretty good, because when they went to Lewis and whoever the other one was, went to Europe. Yeah, Lestat went to Europe to find out the origin of vampires. They found them all deteriorated brutes like that. And of course, you know, in the beginning season of What We Do in the Shadows television show, they had a Nosferatu that lived in the basement until they killed him off. So the director has promised that he'll be able to that the vampire will be able to feed on Greta at the end of the scene. So he's made a, quote, deal with the devil, and the devil was supposed to not feed on his crew. But would you like to go on to how that all works out?
Well, kind of like you were bringing up earlier with the thing with addiction and stuff. This vampire really has a hard time controlling himself. He starts off just at the beginning of the movie. The very first scene that they film with him is kind of down the hill, and the main character kind of like walks down there a little bit, but like gets kind of spooked out and like hightails it out of there. But one of the crew members goes down there and they're like, "Hey, Wolf, what's going on? What are you, like, you okay down there?" And they go to find him, and he seems to have been attacked at some point.
So yeah, the guy that's the Gustav, which is the what's the guy that went to see Dracula? Name, the original guy that traveled over there as a real estate.
Oh, I forget what his name is.
It's not Harker, right? Is it Harker?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, the guy that's playing that character is Eddie Izzard, the British comedian, which is just a very unusual choice for the lead in this role. He does a good job, but I was surprised. I was surprised to see him in this, doing that. And so yeah, he bites, of all the people, he bites the photographer, which is the cameraman, you know, and that kind of puts a kink in the production a little bit.
Yes, very much so.
So the director has to fly the guy that's been bitten a couple of times back to Berlin or wherever their base is, and bring in a new cameraman, which he brings back Fritz,
the coolest guy ever. Yes. Yeah. He comes in and he's on the little plane, and then he like hops off of it before it's even like totally landed, and he takes the goggles off, and he, you know, makes a quip about how he's not a doctor, but he's dabbled in pharmaceuticals, and then he walks up to them and asks, you know, what type of camera it is and if it's loaded, and then he makes another joke about how he's loaded, and he's just like the coolest dude ever. But my goodness, Cary Elwes cannot do a German accent.
No, but he can do a British accent, right?
And he can play. Yes.
He can play Robin Hood better than Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
It's his joke, not mine.
Yes, I know.
So then
he does do. He should have just done a British accent.
Yeah, he sure should have. Nobody would have known the difference.
No one would have cared.
So the people are getting a little freaked out, right? And the director
is feeding. And in fact, the director says specifically that that's making the crew edgy, likes it. He's clearly this like kind of person that like action is part of the process. It's not just the acting. He wants to be that person that's controlling things, a Kubrick type person, like, you know, very much going to create the environment environment, and that's going to cause you to do more than just saying it's going to be reacting.
Kind of a method acting. Everybody's method acting, doing Stanislaw. What is method acting? I think it's Stanislaw.
I don't know.
Do you have any idea? What I'm talking about? Okay. Oh, he's feeding him, rats and weasels and stuff like that.
He gave him a ferret, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't really pacify a vampire, and you can't really control one. And they're notoriously bad for making deals with. Right? So
yes,
it still
he goes to
bad.
tell him off, and it's just like this is not a good idea, right? His vampire he's like probably stronger than you. He's lived longer than you. Scared of you. And in fact, he says, "Tell me how you could harm me when I don't even know how to harm myself." So, really he's lived a long time, and it's caused him some kind of agony. Yes, very much so.
So, Max Schreck or Nosferatu refuses to travel on a boat, so they have to build a huge ship on site there to film the sea scenes, because he's supposed to go to Hamburg, Germany, or somewhere from wherever he's from. And so Greta shows up, and she is high on opium. And
wait. Before you even get to that part, there's that whole scene with the two crew members who are getting drunk by the fire. That's an excellent scene.
Oh, right. Would you? Yes.
We must discuss it. Yes. Okay.
Please do.
So at this point, the cast and crew are still under the impression that Count Orlok is just a method, like never breaking character, right? So the director had already gone back to Berlin to find. Okay, so
Cary Elwes.
the order is. So the director had gone back to Berlin. So the two guys, two crew members are there, and they're getting drunk by the fire. It's nighttime, and Count Orlok kind of is stumbling by, and they under the impression that he is a method actor, they start asking him some character questions, how old are you? When were you turned? Who turned you? That sort of thing. And he's like, I don't remember. I'm very old. I think it was a woman. And they're like, yeah, dude, this dude is amazing. He's so in character. What an actor, And then at a certain point, he just reaches up and grabs a bat and just starts eating it. And then he snatches.
Osborne.
He snatches the bottle of schnapps and just starts chugging that back. And then he just sort of wanders back off after he hands the bottle back to them. The actor, and then they take a drink from the bottle after this guy who just ate a bag from the bottle.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I've drank after some people. I wouldn't do that, I don't think.
No.
All right. So then we got a little sequence. So Cary Elwes flies in, and everything's good. And then Greta shows up eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
The boat is built. The boat set is built, and Greta is on opium and ties a kite. And the director he goes into his laudanum stuff and has a confession to the other two actors, which are the cameraman and the producer. Would you like to go into that scene?
Yeah. So he's in bed, also, messed up at this point. And he brings him close, and he says, Count Orlok is really an actor. He's a real vampire that I found, and I made a deal with him in order to act in this movie. And he sees himself as this great preserver of science. He thinks of this as like a science experiment, kind of. This is a thing that he wants for posterity to, like, say I worked with a vampire and I, was able to preserve it on film. So he's very obsessed with his own legacy and his own mark that he's going to leave on the world.
Right. And then I guess to shoot the final scene, they have to go to the island.
They're in some sort of bunker.
Yeah, that's on the island because they don't know that they say in there that they can't get off of this island. How are they going to get off the island? They don't have an airplane.
That's right. All their fuel has been depleted.
Used up, I think.
Yeah.
So it's Heliogoland or something like that, and it's clearly a reference to the sun.
Yes, and there was another Greek reference that we neglect to bring up, but that I think is a very interesting one. At the beginning of the movie, the director is talking to the actress Greta, and he says, think of yourself as a martyr for your art. And we're like, what is he talking about? This weirdo, right? And as they're traveling from Berlin to Czechoslovakia, they get on the train, and the name of the train is the Charon, which is a reference to the ferryman on the River Styx in Hades.
Right, very good. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Good one to bring up. Okay, so they have a set, and you say it's like a bunker. You're right. It's like it's some kind of military bunker, and they have rigged a trap that when they spring the trap, it lets the sunlight in. So the director thinks he's outsmarted the vampire, and they get Greta together for the scene. She's in the bed, and Fritz or Albin, the producer, and Cary Elwes, the cameraman, and the director, John Malkovich, are all there. Greta's in the bed, and they've got the Nosferatu, and then what?
I mean, the final scene, which is the scene of the movie, and basically he like comes into her bedroom and she's like sitting there kind of, and he is really creepy on her, and she like freaks out a little bit about that, and then there is a mirror bed, and he's kind of between her and the mirror, and she sees that he's not casting a reflection, so therefore he is clearly a vampire.
And she freaks out.
She's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, get me out of here. And then he's kind of freaking out too, because he doesn't know what to do. So he's kind of like pacing back and forth. And the fix to this is to inject Greta with a buttload of morphine.
Right.
so then,
like, yeah, go ahead.
So then they call back to that part at the beginning of the movie where the director had said that she would be a martyr for her art, and then it all makes sense. He had this planned the entire time. He knew that he had promised her to the vampire for his efforts, and so she's, being sacrificed basically.
Yes, and so she's high on the drugs, and but she's conscious enough that it's playing in her mind, and she knows she's gonna die.
Yeah, and you can kind of see her hands going, and yeah. and he had already kind of gotten the scene that he wanted, but he kept filming and kept filming and kept filming.
Right.
And then the other guys on the crew were like, try to stop him, try to get him off of her. And no, I'm sorry, no, that's not what happened.
They made him stop before he bit her.
Mhm.
They made him act the scene out of going to bite her, and then he
Mhm.
stopped him and said, "Okay, well, let's do the death scene now. The death scene of the." I just lost your video.
Sorry, that was a button. Can you see me now?
Okay, yeah, I'm good. And so he made him do the death scene, and then they went back and finished the shooting of him killing her. And so he completely feeds on her, and they're just crazily filming all this stuff, right? And
Right. So
then,
the death scene is that the sun comes up, and then this is what happens in the Nosferatu movie. The sun comes, and then he, dies.
yeah,
So that was the trick that they had rigged up, was that they were gonna like do something where like the weights like dropped, and then like the shutter's gonna
right.
be the sunlight, and they were gonna have killed him. But
But right before that happens, uh, Albin tries to, Cary Elwes tries to stop him, and he snaps Cary Elwes' neck, throws him away. Right? Am I right? Are you shaking your head at me? No.
yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they film him eating her. Then we see the vampire. He's like laying on top of her, and he's snoring with his eyes open, and it's really creepy.
Right.
Then he wakes up, and then he monologues more about how he could snap their necks and all this stuff. So Cary Elwes is like, out a gun and shoots him a couple times. And then the vampire just like flies across, breaks his neck. Then the other guy tries to attack, strangled. I don't think he dies though.
He's still alive.
Yes. Then, the whole time as his crewmen are being like attacked and all this stuff, he's like rolling the camera and all this sort of stuff, and he tells that the composition is unworkable.
Well, so what wakes the vampire up when he's snoring with his eyes open is somebody throws the trap, and the chains rattle, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's when he
right.
wakes up, and Cary Elwes jumps in there.
Right.
So Malkovich tells him the composition is unworkable. Go ahead.
And to return to his mark.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, though, and continues to feed on a dying Greta.
Right. And then Malkovich is still rolling away. And
still rolling.
Some of the crew or some people from outside burst through the wall and open the light up, which is curtains for old Max Schreck, Nosferatu. And
right.
And then just what makes Malkovich's character of Frederick so insidious, then he calls for like the wounded man to give him a slate to close the scene out. It's like if they're not going to know that's the end of the scene without a slate.
Yes, and then at the end of this movie, he says, "This is our very own painting on our very own cave wall." So he's very, very obsessed with it. He doesn't care about other people's lives, stepping on other people to get his success. He wants to be remembered. He wants the notoriety. He wants to be.
So is Frederick? Is he more evil than Nosferatu?
I would certainly say so. I mean, trickier. He's a lot sneakier. He does a lot of stuff that he does it without anybody's consent, or kind of behind people's backs and stuff in order to further his own gains. You know what I mean? at least the vampire is like, I am what I am. I eat what I eat.
Exactly. And well, Catherine, I wanted to ask you a question. Now we've kind of gone through this. Where do you think this fits in the vampire pantheon of movies? I know you told me you weren't a big Nosferatu fan.
Yeah, and
Before.
I think I would still say that. I don't think that I am, but I do think that I think obviously Nosferatu had to exist for this movie to exist.
Yes.
And I think the movie was honestly delightful. I love that this kind of genre where it's taking that kernel of truth and transforming it into this kind of logical story,
Right.
almost.
I don't know if we talked about this before, but the widow of Stoker sued, and they, as part of the suit, they're supposed to destroy all the copies of Nosferatu.
Yes.
So they mostly wiped out copies of this movie. So that's how it fell into like a legend. It had oh, that's a real vampire. There's this movie, but they had to destroy it because there's a real vampire in it. Even though Max Schreck was in movies before and after.
Yes.
He just
absolutely. And look at the difference between what he looks like as Orlok and what he looks like, in real life. They clearly put prosthetics and makeup and things on him. Like doesn't just look like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it made a good rumor because what if oh, I saw this movie one time and all of a sudden it vanishes from the world.
Yeah, and it becomes this like hunt for this thing. It's called lost media, right? Right. I know that there's this one episode of Sesame Street that kind of became a piece of lost media. That was an episode. I think it was just like a segment, and it was called like Cracks or something like that. And it was like a person in their bedroom and like all these cracks on the walls, and they were like seeing visions and stuff in the cracks. And they pulled it because of the crack epidemic. So, but it became like this thing where people were searching and trying to find it and like getting in contact with different people who had worked on it and following the chain of people in order to finally answer the question of was it a real episode or did I just have a fever dream?
Right. Yeah, there's a couple of shows like that I watched as a kid, and I try to look them up, and I know they exist, but they just don't. They're not out there anywhere. Not even still pictures of them. And then it's kind of like the alien autopsy went missing. Shrek. This Nosferatu. I almost called him Shrek. Max Schreck.
Well, yeah, Max Schreck. Yeah.
So. You have, before we wrap it up here, do you have any more concluding thoughts or anything you'd like to say about this?
I would recommend it. I feel like you don't even really have to have watched Nosferatu to like have an idea about what this movie is or to have an enjoyment of it, really. So I mean, it was made in 2000, so it's got some interesting folks in it. I mean, Willem Dafoe knocks it out of the park as a creepy motherfucker.
Whoa, and, family oriented.
Oh, do you want to bleep that?
No,
is it though? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
The podcast, you have to keep them clean, or they ban them in India and China and everything else.
I see.
The video will be fine. So yeah,
okay.
You're right. He is creepy, and Malkovich is just insane and over the top. Cary Elwes is larger than life. Greta
always.
The Greta is the woman that Braveheart was so in love with. That's what she did a lot. She's done a lot of acting, but she's not really broken through in anything.
Like a main character.
Yeah. Oh well, she was. She was a main character, but she just didn't have anything big. And then the odd casting of Eddie Izzard, and the producer was Udo Kier, and he did a good job. Very solid. That's the guy that was drinking with the actor out there in the bat scene.
Oh yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, so I guess that's really it on that movie. I mean, I thought it was quite cool. So, please think of me the next time you want to do another vampire flick.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I believe you're committed to Fright Night, and I'm just waiting for you to be ready to do Fright Night.
Oh,
with
yes.
Roddy McDowell, Chris Sarandon, and some other
Well, did you watch the movie? Where?
In my brain. There. I already have it. That's what I was saying. The movie's in my brain. But yeah, look, I appreciate you doing this. I'm looking forward to having you back for some more vampire stuff. I know this one's a 2000, so it's slightly out of my 25-year mark, but I think this is important enough to do it. We're pretty close. We're almost to 22, so we're only 3 years out on this one. And we'll see you pretty soon, maybe about 4 to 6 weeks from now to see, we'll do Friday Night with Roddy McDowell and Chris Sarandon and some other people. Speaking podcast. Can you hear me? Are you speaking?
Yeah, I can hear you. No.
Okay.
I wasn't.
You gotta speak.
All right.
I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.